Good afternoon and welcome to Cardinal Newman. My name is Mr. Higgerty. I teach A-level accounting here at Cardinal Newman, and I'm also one of the assistant head teachers. This is just my opportunity to introduce you to the subject, to give you an overview of what happens in the next 2 years, and also to give you some insight into whether accounting might be for you or not. So if we just look at this first slide, all I'm going to ask you to do here is just to tell me if you recognize any of these and what the acronyms might stand for. So I'm just going to pause for 30 seconds and see how you get on with that. Okay, so what you'll find is that these are either the accounting bodies or they are the large corporations which most of the accountancy firms actually, most accountants actually work for. So if we just look here, we can see that the ACCA is the Association of Chartered and Certified Accountants, CIMA is the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, and the AAT is the Association of Accounting Technicians. The ICAW is the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. They are the people who set all the exams. And so after university or after school, and depending on what level and what pathway you follow, you can take these examinations. They are your accreditation, and then that's how you get through to studying examinations outside of school, but also how you become a registered chartered accountant in the different areas. The one point to just point out here is that the difference between CIMA and ACCA is that CIMA, and when you talk about management accountants, they're accountants who work within businesses. So you could work for Tesco's, or you could work for Amazon, or any of those organizations as a management accountant, or you can work for an accountancy firm as a chartered accountant. So that's the difference between the two of those. Okay, so what is accountancy? So I think the important thing to note, I know there's a little bit of information on the screen here, but businesses can't operate without accountants, hence the reason that there are so many people employed in accountancy. And you know, it doesn't matter which organization you are, you always need an accountant. You've got to make tax returns, and also more importantly, you've got to make really good decisions within your organization about your day-to-day activities. Where do we spend money? What can we afford to do? If we make this decision, what is the most likely outcome? And the accountant is normally the person who will guide them through that process. A lot of people in business don't have any management experience of accountancy, and that's very, very difficult for them. A lot of businesses that fail through mismanagement of cash. So accountants are there to help, to guide, and to support them through that process. The last point on there, what's really important, it's not just about putting numbers into a spreadsheet. It's really about understanding the financial sort of insights of an organization, but also it's about being part of a team, and it's about communicating how the finance sits inside the rest of the business and how it helps the business succeed. If you look there, it says, you know, you have the same skills as lawyers or engineers and architects because they all work in teams. And actually within those organizations, accountants play a really key point. You know, lawyers have to decide how much to charge per hour. Engineers have to decide how much to charge for jobs. And architects will always be looking at the most cost-effective way to produce buildings, and also, with, eco-environment, the costs of those types of things as well. So accountancy in itself is probably more than you thought it was. Okay, so for me, this is a bit weird, but I actually had a Bitmoji on there for myself. And I'm just here as the person who would lead you through it. My job is to ensure that you succeed as much as you can, and that if you're struggling at any point, that I'm there to help and support you. Mr. Hanif would also be involved in the process, and he's the head of business at Newman at the moment. And he is also an experienced teacher who will be able to guide and support you through that process. One of the key things about Newman is the support that we put in place for those students. So that's why I've recorded myself with my image on there, so that you can help see who I am, and also to try and just pass over that information about how support plays a key role here at Newman. Okay, so within the organization, why is accountancy so important? The key thing for us is that on a daily basis, what we want to know is are we making a profit? Are we making a loss? So the accountant is normally the person who guides and supports you through that process, or can let you know what it is you need to do for that. Chartered accountants are the people who know the business best. They use all their skills and experience to make the decisions that will allow the business to thrive, but also it helps them make some very, very tough decisions about where to go next, what to do, and how to engage in the day-to-day process as a sort of business in a competitive environment. One of the things that students are always asking me is, what is accounting? So if you just look on here, you can see that this is the specification. This is what you cover over the 2 years. So the ones which go from 1 to 12, to 11 are always in the first year, and then the rest of them are in the second year. And it covers 2 areas, what we call management accounting and financial accounting. The financial accounting is the numbers, is putting together the spreadsheets, is putting together the income statements, the balance sheets, the costing statements, all of those types of things. The management accounting is the decision-making process. So you have this information, what do we do next with it? Okay, there are 2 papers, and if you look here, so both papers, and this is something to take into consideration, most A-level subjects are 3 2-hour papers. In accounting, we have 2 3-hour papers, and that will put some people off, but it will attract some other people as well, because in one respect, you have the paper, you only have 2 papers, but on the other side of it is 2 very long papers. The reason for this is that because, as I've just said to you, the papers are divided. Accountancy is management accounting, financial accounting. So paper 1 is financial accounting, paper 2 is management accounting. And so that's really important to understand in that process. So you can just see there, so you've got 120 marks. You have 10 multiple choice questions. You have 2 structured questions worth 20 marks, and then you have 2 extended essay questions. That's the big change at A-level now, is that we have these extended writing questions, which make up 50 marks. They make up 33% of the actual paper. So when people ask me what the difference is the key difference on this new qualification is that you now have to write much more than you did before. Now, on paper 2, exact same layout, 10 multiple choice questions, 2 structured questions, and then 2 extended questions which are essay based. And that is something that we spend a lot of time getting right and getting people to the point that they understand what's going on. Okay, so from my point of view, why would we choose accounting? If you look at it, we look and we develop a range of skills. You look at it from the point of view of you gain great data skills, but the key thing for me is the problem solving. If you are someone who solves problems and likes problems and understands problems and follows sort of rules, then accounting is for you. Because what happens is I give you lots of rules and then you just follow the rules. And that is something that as a student, it rewards hard work. Those pupils who go away after the lesson and do the things that I asked them to do will be rewarded greatly. And the ones who are the most logical thinkers are the ones who will get the most out of it as well. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here as well is that there are 2 different pathways for students when they're studying accountancy. You have 2 very, very clear pathways. And one of the pathways is to go off to university and study. And a very good example here is that there's what is called the Flying Start program with PwC. And PwC allow you to apply for the program. You go off to one of their business schools, and you can see over here that it's the Newcastle University, Henley Business School, which is in Reading, and Nottingham University. And a number of our students have joined these programs, and a number of our students are currently on these programs. and I think our first students, which have completed this year. And they go off to uni, they study there, they do all their summer work at PwC in one of their offices somewhere in the UK. And then at the end of it, if they get a 2-1 or higher, they are given a job at PwC. There is the option of a job at the end of it with PwC. So that's option one, and that tends to work for our sort of more able students, but it also tends to attract those students who are very, very clear about wanting to have a career in accounting afterwards. The other one is in apprenticeships. A lot of students who study accountancy go off and study apprenticeships thereafter. And there are different levels of apprenticeships. You can go in at level 2, you can go in at level 3, you can go in at level 4. And lots of the businesses now are offering what we call degree level apprenticeships. So you can go and work for them and study your degree at the same time. And that's becoming really, really popular. It's becoming very, very competitive now. And a lot of our students, ex-students, have left to join these programs. And the actual number of these programs is opening up each year as well. Okay. So just some key facts about accountancy. And it just puts into context, really, why accountancy is so important. It contributes £52 billion to the UK GDP, which is a substantial amount. There are nearly 600,000 people employed, and that was always 2016, so the figure will be slightly bigger than that now. They paid nearly £10 billion in tax revenue, and also they contributed £1.8 billion of exports. So there you can see that you're actually talking about quite a substantial industry, one which is thriving, one which is encouraging people to come and join them. But as we'll see a little bit later on, it's not in the same way as you might think it is, and the skills that they're looking for are different from what people might perceive to be as well. So that's quite interesting as well. Okay, so if we look at it, you can see here, and what I asked you at the start was, which exams do you do and what happens with it. So you can see here on this, over here, just in this, it says that the ACCA is the most, where most people qualify and they become members and chartered members, and then they go out into the workplace and they work in there. And then you've got the ICAW, and then after that you've got CIMA. And remember, the CIMA is the one with the people who are working currently in the actual businesses, rather than being working for an accountancy firm. They're an accountant within an actual big business. Okay, now this is quite interesting, and this is one of the things that always shocks students a little bit. If you look at the skills that accountancy firms are looking for, and I took these off the programs that are currently running as school leavers programs. So when you leave at the end of A levels, you can join the accountancy firms, you go through the various processes, and these are the skills that they say that they want. So in the first instance, they're looking for leaders, okay? It may be results driven, but they're looking for authentic, resilient, and inclusive individuals who operate with passion. And that's really quite important. And so one of the things that I would say is that your extracurricular activities, the things you do outside of school, become vitally important when you're demonstrating those leadership skills. Your technical capabilities. When you go to work for a firm, the question is, why would they employ you? They would employ you to make more money for them. So what they're looking to see is how you would engage with the employers and what you could bring to that organization. You then got your business acumen. How much are you aware of the business world? Are you aware of things that are happening currently? Are you aware, do you read outside of the classroom? Do you read in general? Do you watch TV programs and documentaries? Are you up to date with what's going on? And do you understand the sort of the finite issues that are out there in the business world? Again, do you know what's going outside the UK? Because these accountancy firms are operating on a global basis, and what they want you to do is that they want you to challenge yourself and to think about how they fit into a global program and the skills that you would need to fit into that program. Lastly, The key thing is that you're part of a team, and what they're looking for is someone who can build relationships, someone who can represent their organization, but work within teams and be very, very effective within those teams, but also deliver value for their clients. So those skills are the things that you've got to build over 2 years. And notice that nowhere on that sheet does it say you have to be an outstanding accountant. What it says is that they're looking for individuals who have all of these skills. Okay, now just to think about this, one of the most important things we have to deal with as businesses, and you can see this is never more pertinent than at the moment, when you look at what's happening, how businesses are responding, they're responding very, very differently. So I'd like you to take a few moments just to think about some external shocks that have happened recently, and then we'll just have a discussion about where that fits into accountancy. Okay, so if we look at this, what we can see is every industry has a shock that happens, an external shock, something outside the organization that happens and that affects the way that they work. Now think about this. Do you think organizations will go back to trading the way that they were before COVID-19? The answer is an emphatic no. But how will it change? And that's what, as accountants within your organizations, you'll be advising clients, you'll be advising the business, you'll be advising everybody else. How do we move forward from this process? And how do we still maintain the value for money for our clients, but also within our organization as well? So I'm just thinking here, I'm trying to think outside of COVID-19. Obviously, COVID-19 is the most important one, but Brexit is going to have a huge impact. The financial crisis of 2008, we've had constant oil shocks, we've had country collapses in the likes of Greece, et cetera, but probably the big thing that COVID is going to bring about now is it's going to change how people work remotely. Up until now, everybody's traveled into London, and London's been the hub, but lots of people are not traveling into London now and still managing to work from home. And lots of organizations have invested huge sums of money in remote learning. So we need to monitor how that will work and what will happen. And we need to look at how businesses will adjust. And that's something that's very important for us to track. Okay, if you get the chance, there is on Netflix a movie about the Enron scandal, and you should have a look at that. And that really had a massive impact on the structure of how accounts are now completed. Just in very short, Enron was one of the largest companies in the world. It was rated on Forbes magazine as the sort of most valuable company in the world, and it was all a big scam. They basically had lots and lots of offshore companies created, and believe it or not, hidden in the names of Star Wars characters. And the accountancy firm who was responsible for auditing the accounts signed them all off, saying that they were all absolutely fine. And sort of thousands upon thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people lost their life savings because they had invested in Enron as a company. Do try to find the movie. It is a very, very insightful movie, and was something that will help you in that process as well. If you get a chance, I'm not going to have a chance now, but please have a look at this YouTube clip as well, and it will allow you to see how the impact of external shocks, and also gives you an insight into the movie itself. Okay, what I'd like you to do now, and I'm trying to get to the point where we just have some time to think about what we would be doing in lessons. So one of the first things we have to do is think about ethics and what professionals, accountants, and what we expect of them. So what I'd like you to do is to spend about 5-10 minutes now just going through this list of characteristics of and expect the professional ethics of an accountant. And I'd like you to have a go at just finding out what you think each one of these are. So you can just look them up, or you can just have a look at them. And this is what we would do. Then we would bring the information back. We would share it as a group, and then we would explain or make our notes, and then we would look at some questions on how we would write up the answers to this. So I'm just going to I'd like you to press pause now, just for a couple of minutes. I'd like you to have a quick look at least one, if not two, and the reasons behind it. Okay, so if you want to just pause now. Okay, and so you've now had the opportunity to look at that, and hopefully what you'll have had the chance to look at is that as accountants, there's a very, very tight sort of professional ethics code, and there's a lot of questions, essay questions, on why accountants have to be ethical, and where the lines get a little bit blurred, and where accountants can fall on the wrong side of the law, and that they sort of why the ethics are there and why they're universal. Okay, good. Right. So just to finish up, my own thinking on this is that I'm obviously biased about accounting because I've been teaching it for a number of years now, but also because I've seen so many students go on and do so many wonderful things. And I personally, if I just go through this list, you will learn so much. And every year when you say to the students, by Christmas, you'll have learned, more than you'll have thought possible. And then after that, you get the situation where you are, in year 13, looking back what you're looking at in year 12 and going, my goodness, I can't believe we find year 12 so tough because of what we know now. It is fun, and we try to engage. It's tough. There's no A level that isn't, but at the same time, it is fun in the sense that it's quite challenging. And so you won't get bored, let's put it that way. The biggest thing, and I've mentioned this already, is accountancy rewards hard work. If you are a grafter, someone who just puts hours and hours and hours in, you will be rewarded. The results in accounting have been consistently good. I would like them to be better, but I'm always going to want them to be better. We have started getting A stars in the subject now, and that's been really, really positive. We're getting one every year. The group sizes are getting bigger. So now we're looking to achieve more of those as well as we become more popular there. Accounting is incredibly rewarding as a subject. If you're studying business studies in accounting, they're not similar in the sense that the content overlaps. But what you learn in accounting, you can transfer into business. And there's one of the questions that is sort of towards the back end of unit 2 for accounting. If you're studying business studies, there is an overlap there, and it does. Those students who are doing business and doing those longer essay questions as practice do actually do very, very well in there as well. The subject is addictive. There are people who get really into it and spend lots of time doing past paper questions and doing lots of sort of outside reading, and they are the people who tend to follow the careers. They're the people who tend to go out and do what they want. And because of its flexibility, there's lots of opportunities there for people to either go, one of the two pathways. You can go to university, you can do an apprenticeship, you can go and work for one of the big firms, or even you can go into teaching. And so for me, it is a pretty wide range of things you can do. And actually, the students who do accounting, there tends to be a very high percentage of students who then go on to study accountancy at HE level or in higher apprenticeships. So I hope that's been a sort of given you some food for thought about the subject and the content, and also about where it might fit for you. If you do have any more questions, you can just email me. My email address is phiggerty@cardinalnewmanschool.net, and I'll happily answer any questions or reply to anything that you have to say about this. Okay, so it just remains to wish you all the best with your GCSE results. It's been a weird year, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in September, and hopefully you will find that studying accountancy is for you. And I look forward to getting back into the classroom and teaching the subject that I love. Okay, take care of yourselves.